Welcome to the Homestead and Outdoors podcast. You are listening to episode 3 of a series called The Story of This Hunt. So tonight I actually went out hunting for the first time in, it's been weeks since I hunted, and we had a big cold front come through. It's happening right now actually. It was cold tonight, but it's going to be a lot colder in the next couple of days. And according to the cameras, the bucks are just, moving. It's, what is today? The 27th, I believe. October 27th. And, the rut's right around the corner, and it's going to be good this next week. Actually, there was a buck showed up that I might have to go after, so I might be taking a little trip here first of next week and put a couple days in. So if you haven't, go back and watch the other 2 episodes, I guess. And the first one is kind of what this is all about, and the second one was kind of just the same as this one will be here. So what we're gonna do is this time we're gonna have 2 bucks though, because there's 2 and not much of a story on the one, so that way it'll be a little bit longer and we'll get through this a little faster. Like I'd said, I have like 20 different bucks to go through. So another thing I'd mention is if you're listening to this anywhere other than YouTube, I also have a YouTube channel called the Homestead and Outdoors, where we do a little bit of whatever, all kinds of outdoors and homestead. And let me see, the last video I shot a turkey from the house, and shot 2 turkeys now this year and a doe in Kentucky. And I think other than that, hopefully shoot a doe here shortly around here, and if we get really lucky, maybe a buck. So, and as always, this screen's here behind me in case someone would want to share their story. Doesn't have to be a hunting story, can be anything. This is a series of hunting stories, but we I don't know, look where this podcast goes. But anyway, I'm going to start in with these bucks. It's going to start with a smaller one here. I'll grab it here. It's a little smaller. Got some pretty cool features. Got some hooks down here on the bases and all kinds of good stuff here. But it's a mainframe 8-point, just I don't know, if you go in inches again, it's maybe a 100-inch deer. It's pretty small. And that's the one lesson that this deer taught me was, I don't know how good it taught, I don't know how good it was at teaching me that lesson, because I think it happened a time or 2, which is probably one of the main reasons that a lot of people give up when they're hunting for bigger bucks and shoot a smaller one, is they think they're shooting a bigger one than they really are, which that is fine. I am not trying to say you should shoot big deer. I don't even care if you hunt deer. I hunt way less deer than I would like to, but responsibilities and everything are just way more important. There's actually, deer hunting's not even important at all, so if it comes to real life here. So but this buck here, let me see. So I guess just start with the hunting story. So this would have been the year after last episode. So youth season came around, and let me see, youth season we would have usually sat in like a cornfield in the corn rows, and as the deer came out in the waterways, we hunted a lot of waterways, sat in the corn and watched the waterway up and down, and then they'd come up the waterway eating that green grass and stuff like that along the way. And anyway, this doe, I think it actually was a button buck, came out and worked its way up to me, and I decided I'm going to shoot it, and I did. So bang, and this button buck fell down right there, and down the waterway comes this thing just flying down, trying to get to the woods, I guess. And I'm like, big buck, and I shot it, and when I walked over there, I was like, oh man, that thing is just tiny. I had actually the year before, which the last episode, I'd shot that big 10 point and had passed the doe to get that one, and I was just kind of looking for a big deer kind of like that again. And I guess that's kind of if you'd want to take a life lesson out of that, it's not like you have to shoot a bigger buck every year or whatever, try to, but in life there's usually, you're always looking for one step higher, one step closer to the goal that you're trying to achieve, but one every day, better yourself every day. And that's kind of how I take deer hunting, I guess. If I shoot a bigger deer, I like this year I'm looking for a 170-inch buck because I have multiple that are in the 160s and around there, and one that should have been more than a 170 but had a bunch of tines broke off. So that's just kind of how I decide what my goals are going to be, which I don't know. This year I've already, being said there wasn't a whole lot of deer on camera that I wanted to shoot. I was thinking I'd maybe shoot a really wide 10 point that probably wouldn't score more than 150 and definitely be happy with it, but maybe that'll change. Maybe one of these the buck that just showed up, he'll be right up there, but it still isn't this one. That's why the shed here, right here behind me, is there. That is the buck I really like to get, but I don't know. He made it to the end of last season, but I only ever got one picture of him before that in one shed, and there he isn't. So anyway, I went down a rabbit trail there. Oh, this buck wasn't as big as I thought it was when I walked up there, and that is why I think, if you're hunting for bigger deer, it's very hard to see how big a deer is when it's running. So even like deer drives or whatever, usually, even if you're looking for a bigger deer, he comes flying out of the brush, out across the field, and you start slinging lead at him or whatever, you usually are thinking it's bigger than what it is. Even sitting in a tree with archery gear, you have him way closer, it's slowed down a little bit, and there's a bigger chance that you're going to see what you're actually shooting, which that's not all bad. But one thing I've seen over the years with people that are wanting to shoot bigger deer also are safer hunters. If you're just shooting the first thing that runs out, I've had people cripple some deer that I went back after, and so a deer came running out of a CRP field right beside me. There was bullets flying after it, and one of them hit it, but he didn't even know he hit it. I'm like, that deer was, almost falling over when it got to the other side there. If he's going to go after it or what. And so he came out there and kind of walked after. There was a blood trail there. Walked after it, and I told him I'd come and help him. We never did find it, but he went across the river and whatnot all. But what was I going to say about that? Oh, and then I was like, that was a nice little buck, and he had no idea that it was a buck. I'm like, he's like, I just could see his head sticking out of the grass. I'm like, wow, hopefully, a good thing it was a deer at least. I mean, I can see how someone like that maybe would have, there's a deer, or there's, we're deer hunting, so whatever jumps up's probably a deer. How every now and then someone gets hurt out of that deal. But anyway, so this deer here, the main lesson on this one, which there wasn't much of a hunt. I shot 2 deer right back to back again, but this one here came running down the corn row there, and I shot it, and it down into it ran a little bit before it went down, but the lesson on this one pretty much was just if you want a bigger deer, it's not a good idea to shoot at one that just last minute comes flying out. Yeah, no, I was kind of happy with it then after all. It had all kinds of cool stickers and whatnot all down here on the bases. If for you video guys, you can see that. But yeah, let me see. So this was all in line. I shot a buck those first 3 years, and then apparently, according to my little notebook that journal or whatever that I was keeping there, I missed a year. I shot a whole mess of does, and in 2011 that would have been. So I shot a bunch of does, but I didn't get a buck that year. I know there was one buck that I shot at in shotgun season that one year that I didn't get. That was pretty big. But anyway, so then when we turned 16, Dad got us a bow, or the old hand-me-down bow. It was a York bow, but that bow, I think I would have been the third person to use that bow in the family there. So my 2 older brothers would have used it, then I used it, and the very first deer I shot with that bow, I hit high, and I tracked that thing all over the creation and never did find it, which that one didn't die, I'm pretty sure. It was right below the backbone there in that meat basically, so, or right above maybe. No, I'm not even sure. It was just up, and it stood there at 30 yards in the brush for the longest time, just wandering around before it ever even headed out across the cornfield, and I tracked it up through there just to see where it went. But I can't remember if I shot a doe after that then before I got this buck, but let's grab that one. So my first archery buck was actually a pretty good one. We're gonna have to back up here. These things are getting bigger. So this buck was my first archery buck, believe it or not. He's got palmation right here, there was a point right here too. Anyway, it's a mainframe, well, I don't even know, 10 point I guess, but the tines are all together, broke off on the one side, and then he's got a cool double split brow tine type deal going on there. So I think he has like 11 points. I didn't count them tonight, but I was thinking it's 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so it would have been like a 12 point if he had all his points. But anyway, this buck has quite the story and a couple lessons learned. So this would have been right about this time of year, October, I want to say 22nd, but I really don't know. I was running late. I just don't like going hunting when I don't have the time, or when I don't have the time to, you know, sneak in there and relax and not be rushing around. But this one here, you know what? There's a tag on the back of this plaque. I can see exactly when it's October 23. October 23rd. So I almost didn't have time to get to this tree stand, so there was a bunch of brush piles. They had actually tore some of the woods away and piled it up, and the tree stand was about maybe 50 yards on past them, between the wood, or on the edge of the woods, and the brush piles were out in the field. And I snuck behind those brush piles, and I came around, kind of around there and looked around, and I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable walking over there and getting up in the tree. I think I seen a deer or two or something out in the other end as I came up there. So I sat there in the brush pile for 5-10 minutes, and I just didn't like it. I'm like, I'm going in the tree stand, and I snuck over there halfway up the ladder, see this deer coming, so I'm stopped. It was a doe they worked on past. got up in the tree and was here getting everything set up, pulling my bow up. I could hear 2 bucks fighting on the other end of the woods by the fence, and so I pulled out my grunt tube and I grunted a few times and waited, and a little buck came, and I'm like, alright, there's a little guy, there's one of them. Then I waited a little longer and grunted a few more times, and here comes this other one, and that one was really nice. He long story short, my dad shot that one then in shotgun, so I know exactly how big he is. He's hanging in his shed, but I decided I'd shoot that one for my first archery buck, and it was an 8-point with a little kicker, kind of like this, but just not near as long. I tried to stop him, whistled or squeaked at him, I think, something like that, a couple of times, and he did not stop. And as he got, so then I could watch him for a while before he got to my next shooting lane. And in the meantime, I'm like, you know what? I think I'll just let that one walk. He's not that big. And I passed him. He stood there forever. I could have shot him then after. I decided not to for quite a while. And I just didn't. I just watched him. And I'm not sure why, but I think I might have heard some deer back in there still, and I'm like, maybe there was another bigger buck. I don't know if those 2 small, like little one and the bigger one were fighting, because I could hear, clacking pretty good. So I grunted a few more times, and here comes this thing just right down the same trail. So I was ready for this one, and stopped him right where I needed him and sent an arrow right through him. He mule kicked and ran right back the way he came, and I just climbed down and went home. And that was one that my dad went along then. I told him, hey, I shot a big buck. I know it had extra points. I don't know how many or how big he really is, but he was pretty big and he had extra points, which you see that very easily if you're hunting. Even if you aren't, focused on the rack, you notice it has extra points. Or I do. I don't know if everyone else does, but anyway, so we tracked him, and he hit the tree and spun around and was down underneath the barbed wire fence. I couldn't get him out. He had his rack almost tangled in the barbed wire fence, but we drug him out of there and took him home. So I guess the lessons, I guess the first one was, this could have been a totally different story. Maybe I would have sat in that brush pile, they would have come out to the edge of the field, and I would have shot them from there, but I didn't have very good concealment, and I have a feeling they would have seen me. But anyway, it paid off to get up in that tree, even if it was a little later. And I guess the second lesson was to not shoot the first or second buck that comes along. No, it's just if you pass a deer, there's a good chance. I mean, if you want to shoot big deer, you have to pass deer. It's just not, and I'm not talking to let them grow. I'm talking more, you can't just shoot the first deer that comes unless that one's big. So the lesson that this one kind of taught me for that was there's always a chance that there's another deer around that you don't know about. And yeah, I still like my grunt tube. This one here, the grunt tube, killed me this deer pretty much. The very last buck I shot that buck twice in a week's time or whatever, and the first time a grunt tube brought him in. The buck before that, totally, I watched that deer. He was going way too fast. He was heading down the river. I grunted at him and he spun around, his ears went back, and he came plowing up right at me. So that's a story for quite a while yet, because that's one of the last ones I shot. But anyway, as always, enough of the deer talk, and let's get to some of this important stuff here. As always, I'm going to do a little devotional here. The first week we just kind of talked about creation, kind of what you might experience when you're out hunting, all the things you see. But the second one I started with a verse out of the Bible. Right now I'm not gonna, actually I bet I still have it on the 2 Timothy 3 14 to 17, I think, was on that paper. But that was kind of talking about, it came to the point where it was the Bible. You need a Bible to be able to practice what God had in mind here for our lives. And so now we have a Bible, and we read some of that. And the next thing I could think really was salvation. If you don't understand salvation, which the Bible, I didn't mention a whole lot the last time, but the Bible, of course, has our so salvation is the important part. But in order to know what to do, what God requires of us, what He wants from us, we have to read the Bible. So now, say we've read the Bible, or we know, say, I keep saying like the 10 Commandments would be a good start, because we all know God says we're all sinners, and from Adam and Eve, we from nature we're sinners, or we're born with a sinful nature. I like to say, by the time we think about, or by the time we get old enough to think about sin and what it might be, we're already sinners, or we realize that, okay, I have done wrong, I have done this or that I knew I shouldn't have done. And that's kind of what I categorize sin as. My gauge for myself, or whatever, is if you don't think it's right, if you think it's wrong to do something and you do it anyway, just as, no one made that rule, no, that my neighbor did that hundreds of times, he doesn't care if I do it to him, or whatever. But if you just have the opportunity to refrain from doing that, or the Holy Spirit, which is another thing I guess we should talk about, the Holy Spirit would say, that isn't right, and you're just like, yeah, but everyone else does it, and I think some of the other people can do that exact same thing, and it is not sin, because they just simply, which in itself it's not exactly wrong, but if you're thinking, hey, this is wrong, and you just plow right through it and don't go back and maybe think over it a little bit, or some things that you do sin that you don't even know about. And I would say there is, actually, now that I just think about this, because God already has categorized some of that stuff that you already know. You read the Bible and you're like, whoa, yeah, alright, we've done some of that. The 10 Commandments, if you have done everything, if you can read the 10 Commandments, say you've never done any of that, you're definitely better than me. And actually, I think you might want to read this again if you think you didn't. But anyway, so now that we know, like I said, by the time we're old enough to realize who God is and who we are, we're like, okay, let's see what life is all about. We realize that we have already sinned. Even if you never read the Bible or anything, that we have a law system and all that some people say we have, I don't know what the number is, but we have millions of laws trying to do the same thing that the first 10 Commandments. If we do follow the 10 Commandments, we wouldn't need any of those others, hardly. So anyway, so I have a couple verses here out of Ephesians chapter 2 that talk a little bit of salvation. So like I had said, by the time we realize who God is and who we are, and we realize that we need Jesus, and I think we all know, for the most part, all know who Jesus is. And if you have a Bible, it's not hard to find. I'm not trying to read the whole Bible to you. I'm just trying to, do my devotions, and might as well do them right here where a couple other people might benefit from them. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 1 to 10. And you hath he quickened who were dead in trespasses and sins, wherein in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience, among whom also we all had our conversation in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. But God, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Christ. Yeah, by grace ye are saved, it says there in the parentheses. And hath raised us up together, and made us sit together in heavenly places in Christ Jesus, that in the ages to come he might show the exceeding riches of his grace in his kindness towards us through Christ Jesus. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them. Yeah, I really liked this verse when I started looking up and I started reading that part. So I guess the main thing I wanted to point out was here where he says, for by grace are ye saved through faith, and not of yourselves, not of your own selves. It is a gift of God. And we can't be good enough. We can't do good enough. We can't, like I just contradicted that earlier when I said about it stemmed out of a buck. You're trying to get a bigger one every year or whatever, but in life we're trying to do better, and we do, and we should. If you aren't trying to be better, you're probably going the other direction. You can't really just sit there, because if you're sitting there, there's a good chance you're going backwards actually. So if you aren't going forward, you're probably going backwards, in my opinion there. It's not like we're trying to every day reach a certain place. It's just slowly just forward progress to a much higher, farther, distant goal. It's not like we're trying to set a goal for the day where we maybe get discouraged because we didn't quite make it. We're just one steady forward all the way. No set day, but the end of our life maybe is what we're saying, which might be tomorrow. It might be tonight. You just don't know where you're going there. But that's where the saying or whatever comes, what would you do if you knew you're gonna die tomorrow or whatever. But yeah, it's not of works lest any man should boast, which kind of like, oh, I did this, but grace, mercy, all that, and then salvation, it's all a gift of God. We can't earn it. We can't. It's, I guess, in a way you could say, we work for it or whatever, because we kind of do. We try to. Well, that's not how we get it though. I guess you still have to, to obtain that. There's plenty to do, but you get the grace as a gift from God, and the faith through faith. Faith in Jesus Christ, and if you you have to know the story of Jesus to have faith in him. You got to kind of know something about. You can't really have faith in something that you know nothing about. So That would maybe be the other thing we could look at is to understand salvation fully, we need to know what Jesus really did for us. And probably first, even before that, we need to realize who we are. And I'm talking in the sinful people that we are, or the sin that we have, and how small we really are, and how we can't do it by ourselves. And that, I think that's a good mentality to have. It's just, if you can every day that you wake up or whatever, you can say, one step at a time, rather than one day at a time, maybe take it 1 hour at a time in that aspect where, God, where next, not just, I got this. Then again, there's two sides of that, you gotta push forward by yourself too. It's not by yourself, with him. You can ask him to be with you throughout the day, and then push forward and go get it, but if you're just gonna, I don't need you, let's go until we're up against the wall, and use you for a 911 call, use Jesus or God prayer and all that for emergencies is not what it was for. In fact, should be probably, I would guess it's going to be almost as many prayers of thanks as it will be for help. So yeah, I think that is the end of this podcast. I guess thank you for listening to the Homestead and Outdoor podcast. God bless, and we'll see you on the next one.